control panel. Promote Tom Oxner. There we are, Mr. Ziegler. Great to see webinar control panel, or you can just there you go. All right. Okay, good. I'm just going to ask members of the board to please mute yourself if you are not speaking, just so we don't pick up any background. I'm going to start the broadcasting.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, I'd like to convene the Single Family Design Board for June 22nd, 2020. Mary, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. This is Mary, Commission Secretary. I will take the roll call. So we have Chair Miller.
Here.
Vice Chair James.
Here.
Board Member Farrell.
Here.
Board Member Motisha. Board Member Richards.
I'm here.
Board Member Sweeney.
Here.
And Board Member Ziegler.
Here.
So only Board Member Motisha is absent. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'd like to go to general business for public comment. Any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda for the public discussion. Ellen, do we have anyone that is interested in speaking?
Mr. Chair, we currently do not have anyone who has joined the webinar just yet, but okay. We might have people watching City TV. So I'll go ahead and hand it back over to you.
All right, thank you. So let's go ahead and approve the minutes for the Single Family Design Board meeting for June 8th, 2020. May I have a motion for approval?
I make that motion.
Second.
Who was the initial? I missed that.
I was.
Okay, Lisa.
I made the motion. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Let's go through the items on the agenda. Can this be, I'm going to be reading it off the screen. Can it be a little larger so I can, okay. So let's scroll down. So item number 1, 3240 Campanile Drive. Proceed to item 2. Item number 2, 1726 Calle Boca del Cañón. Seeing those are the only 2 items. All those in favor say aye. Oh,
Aye.
sorry. Wait. Spoke too soon. Item number 3, I apologize. 333 East Mission Street. I think that's it, right? Okay, meeting adjourned. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is
Yes.
Ted Hamilton. If we could do a roll call, please, for the remote
That's
meetings.
right. Roll call, please.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
this is Mary, Commission Secretary. I will take the roll call. Chair Miller,
Yes,
Vice Chair James,
Yes.
Board Member Farrell,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Ziegler,
Yes.
and Board Member Motisha is absent.
thank you. So let's proceed to the approval of the consent calendar for June 15th, 2020. Ted, do you have that minutes?
Yes, Timmy, if you could. Thank you. Okay, for item A, 3354 Cliff Drive, the motion was for project design approval with comments. And for 736 California Street, the motion was for final approval with comments.
Thank you.
I believe those are the only 2 items.
And who reviewed them?
The reviewers were Motisha and Richards.
Thank you. May I have a motion for approval?
Move for approval.
Second?
I second.
All
Lisa?
those, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes, we have Chair Miller,
Yes,
Vice Chair James,
Yes.
Board Member Farrell,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Ziegler,
Yes.
and Board Member Motisha is absent.
thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar for June 22nd. Ted, may I have, let us know what those are?
Okay, the reviewers were Motisha and Richards. Item A was 1645 Las Canoas Road. The motion was for project design approval and continue indefinitely to consent for final approval. And item B was 1701 La Vista del Oceano Drive. The motion was, the item was on for project design approval and final approval, and the motion was to continue indefinitely with comments.
Thank you. May I have a motion for approval?
I move the item be approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, this is Mary. I will take roll call. We have Chair Miller,
Mr.
Yes.
Chair, Mr.
Yes, go
Chair.
ahead. Yes,
Yeah, before we go to roll call, I just have a question.
yes.
Both these items require grading, and maybe this is a question to Ted. Do they have to make slope lot findings on these 2 or one of those 2?
Mr. Sweeney, are you referring to the 2 items that were on today's consent meeting, June 22nd?
Yeah, because they have retaining walls and drainage, et cetera. So was there a requirement for slope lot finding or no?
There is a requirement for slope lot finding for 1701 La Vista del Oceano. I don't believe either project required grading findings since since they didn't meet the grading threshold
Okay,
for the grading
Thank you.
findings.
okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. So Mary, could you take a roll call again? Thank you.
Yes. So we have Chair Miller,
Yes?
Vice Chair James,
Yes.
Board Member Farrell,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Ziegler,
Yes.
and Board Member Motisha is absent.
Thank you. Just as an observation, I just noticed that we have quite a few projects. It's kind of slow. I don't know if it's because of the everything being online or the situation with COVID. It's just an interesting observation. I don't know if the city has any comment about that. Anyway, Ted, do you have any observations
Mr.
about
Chair,
that? Yeah.
Sure, Mr. Chair, I can speak to that a little bit. Applications are slowing down a little bit, just for the board's general knowledge. However, it also just depends on the timing with which the submittals and resubmittals come in. So, for example, next full board meeting should be full. We already have enough projects for that to be full. But we may end up canceling consent meetings in the next couple of weeks. So
Okay.
overall slowing down, but there are still some applications coming in.
It's probably also a learning curve doing everything online as well. So anyway, announcements, requests by applicants or continuances or withdrawals, future agenda items or appeals.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Fred.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have a raised hand thing like they do on Zoom, so I don't know if you can see me or not. Anyway,
Yeah.
just a question. Ted indicated that the consent calendars might be canceled in the next few weeks for whatever reasons. Ted, I was trying to recall, did we change over the 2 reviewers at the end of June and go to a July 1st consent calendar, new set of folks, or I couldn't remember.
Mr. Sweeney, I believe you're correct. I don't know for certain the answer off the top of my head, but if I recall correctly, we did switch back in March. So you are correct that the time would be soon to rotate the reviewers for consent.
Right, and I think I may be one of the reviewers. That's the reason I was asking. But I'm not going anywhere, so I'll be here. So I just wanted to make sure we get some advance notice. Thank you.
I just want to say, Fred, looks like you finally got a haircut.
Yes, after 4 months. It was a very, very expensive cut. I'll tell you the story later. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of under the announcements. Yes, Ted.
Just another quick thing, members of the board, I will follow up with an email announcing the schedule for the consent reviewers, just so you're all aware. I will do that this week.
Great, thank you. I doubt we have any subcommittee reports that I know of. If anyone has anything, please speak up. Hearing none, I will proceed to the calendar. We have one item today. It's 1547 Shoreline Drive. This is a review after final approval. Lisa, do we have any minutes to share?
I will read the notes that say, oh, wait a minute.
There they are.
There they are. They keep changing.
Oh, they came and went. There they are.
Okay.
They're on the bottom there. See 'em?
Right.
The design approval.
Yes, okay. Project design and final approval with comments. Number 1, the NPO ordinance criteria have been met as stated in subsection 22.69.050 in the city's municipal code, and 2 hillside design and slope block criteria have been met as stated in same subsection. And that's all the notes I see.
All right, thank you. So they're here for final approval. Review after final approval is requested. The scope of revision includes an 89 square foot expansion of the 2nd floor balcony with new cable railing, alterations to window and doors, and replacement of shingle roofing with standing seam metal roof. Project requires substantial conformance with plans granted project design approval on June 3rd, 2019. Project requires neighborhood preservation and hillside design and slope lot findings. Project was last reviewed at consent at June 3rd, 2019. So I have a real quick question, Ted.
Yes, and I have some comments as well.
Yeah, it was, okay, well, maybe this is a follow-up to it. It was reviewed on consent, now it's to the full board. So I'm a little, does that mean anything, or?
Yes, I will address that in staff comments. So this review after final approval is actually the second review after final that this project has applied for. The first one was on August 27th. It was granted an administrative approval, just reviewed by staff, and that was to remove the proposed exterior staircase and landing, removed proposed window on the south elevation, and revised 2 windows on the north elevation, and also revised 2 doors at the deck on the west elevation. So I received an admin approval for that August 27th, 2019. And the reason that you're seeing this in front of full board today is that staff determined that since the proposed roofing material is a standing seam metal roof, the project would require full board review instead of consent review.
Thank you. Hi, Tom, can you review the plans for us?
And Mr. Oxner, just to let you know that you're still muted, if you could unmute yourself using the microphone icon.
How's that? Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Great. So, yeah, I was just saying I'm a little uncomfortable being the only item on the agenda, but I'm going to take it slow here and see how we do. This project, I don't know if you have photos of the existing house. I think they were in the original job file. I've got photos here, and I was told that I might be able to do this, and I don't know how well you can see that, but basically what it is, I'm sure you guys have all seen this house on Shoreline. It's basically a tongue and groove siding. It's painted kind of an olive green. The house, I think the best way to describe the house in its current architectural style would be maybe a contemporary craftsman. And that was the same finishes and color that the owner wanted when he started this adventure remodeling this house. So over the course of construction, he's been looking at, finishes and feelings and so forth. So, which is, I think is a good thing, because he wants to change the materials. This revision, as was stated, it was something that probably could have been on consent, but because of the metal roof, and it was bumped up to full board. So it's not an increase in size or anything of the house. There is the rear deck got extended further out, but the height and size of the house isn't changing. But we've done a comprehensive proposal now for all the finishes around the house. There are 2, the house is predominantly a flat roof structure. There are 2 shed roofs on the structure. One is right at the street that faces Shoreline, and it slopes towards the street. The other roof section is right at the entryway. And again, it slopes north towards the street. So from the ocean side, there's no visible exposure to this metal roof.
Excuse me, hold on, Tom. Could you scroll down who's ever leading the plan so we can see the elevations? Thank you.
This is a good one here, that the roof plan, the existing roof plan on the previous sheet on the, yes,
okay,
right here. So
yes.
Those 2 shed portions slope towards the street. And so those are the 2, currently they have a slate on it, which is an awkward, heavy material for the contemporary style that this house is going. So we thought it would be nice to go with a dark colored, a slate gray galvalume roof. And so I've modeled the house in Revit to the best that we can with the proposed materials to give you an idea of how the materials work all the way around the building. So this is the south exposure. So we're introducing a synthetic wood siding with an off-white stucco color, and then the flat roof edges in some areas around the house have a dark bronze galvanized metal that matches the Fleetwood bronze windows and the dark guardrail and stanchions. So that would all kind of tie in. And then again, the roofing would be the slate gray standing seam roofing, and there's an accent where the chimney stacks a little bit of a deeper gray stucco to kind of complement the two shed roofs on the structure. So before, again, this house was permitted as really just to retain the existing wood tongue and groove, and the existing wood tongue and groove, it varies. It's horizontal and it's vertical, and it doesn't have much of an identity. The wood siding is basically going to cover the whole front of the house, so it should really disappear, similar to the way it does now. So the front of the garage and the fencing along either side is all monolithic in this wood siding, so it should kind of that deep color should kind of go away, and then the metal roofing, there's an image of that we've modeled for you to see what that would be like from shoreline on one of these slides that you're seeing. So these slides just go around the building. There it is there. That was it right. Yeah, so it's kind of dark in this image. It shows up better on mine, but so there's that wood siding, and then you've got the deep color garage door, and then that you've got the horizontal eyebrow there, which is that dark anodized that we saw on the south back elevation, and then you've got the 16-inch on center seams with that slate gray galvalume roofing, and so again, these forms are all the same. It's just the materials that are being changed here. And I suppose the eyebrow has been added also on above the garage door there to tie in with the detailing around the rest of the structure, especially the south side. So we could probably page through maybe the exterior elevations, or we could keep going around the images here. So yeah, this is the existing roof plan. If we keep going, what's interesting is that, so this is one of two permits on this house. There's another permit that is just for the exterior deck. So there's actually two permit process for this house. The reason for that, and the reason that these plans here that you see don't include the proposed deck, is because the deck was triggering a coastal development permit at the time. So we chose to, not to wait through the whole process, just to start the remodel of the house. So, and then so those two processes are kind of running concurrently. Apparently the revisions to the deck haven't triggered design review, but I suppose they might. If I'm not quite sure how. It's kind of an odd process on this one, but if we keep scrolling through the images here, we'll get to the elevations or these plans, and we can see there's the proposed roof plan. These are the proposed elevations, and they call out the material. So the plaster is proud of the wood throughout the house here. So as you follow, there's architectural details that show how all the materials come together horizontally and vertically. And again, the windows are recessed Fleetwood windows. They're set back into both the wood facade and the plastered facade. And the wood detailing, we're actually turning the simulated wood back into the recessed opening so that it gives a good visual on how the thickness of that material steps back into the windows and door openings. The guardrail is it's just the style. The rail and the stanchions are the dark anodized, and then it has the rod, just a metal rod that are at approximately 4 inches on center horizontally, and that's the detail. And then on the north elevation, you can see there's a chimney element. So that is sort of that's the other color on the color board, which is a simulated concrete appearance. And then the chimney cap up there is the dark anodized chimney cap. And then the parapet would just be clean. The plaster just comes up. There's no trim piece up there. It's just a very simple end of the plaster on the parapet. I think that might give you a good feel as to where we are. Again, this is triggered here just because of the metal roofing. Otherwise, you'd be seeing this on consent. And I guess I'm open to questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Tom. So Ellen or Ted, do we have, oh, thank you for putting me on.
Thank you.
Yeah, did we have any audience questions or emails?
If anyone would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the hand icon and I'll call on you. And I do not see anyone who wishes to speak. So I'll just ask Ted if there is any written comment.
And Mr. Chair, there is no written public comment for this item.
All right, thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for questions, and I'll just go down the list. Lisa, do you have any questions? And you need to unmute.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and it is on that rendering right there where I have the question for Mr. Oshner. Is that a fountain that is sheeting down?
Yeah, so there's a water wall. Exactly. So the understory of that deck became a water wall, and it goes into a fountain, and then there's a sliver of a dipping pool just below that it spills into. So.
Wow.
Okay, and so we will not be able to see the location of the deck in question on this permit application. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, the deck is pretty much the same deck that was originally permitted. Very minor changes to it, but that these are separate. I suppose in hindsight, we could have kind of combined both these, because these images here, these models had combined both the deck permit and the remodel permit together to see how the comprehensive building will feel.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Jan, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Joe, Matisha, do you have any questions?
Yep.
Okay. Robert Richards, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Fred Sweeney, any questions?
Yes, questions. First, this is to Ted or staff. I don't understand why we're reviewing this if the deck isn't part of this project, and yet it's described in the description of the project that was presented as an 89 square foot addition to the deck. So I'm trying to understand, did we approve the 89 addition to the deck in the original approval, or is this a new addition of more square footage to the deck?
Mr. Sweeney, I might be able to help answer that question. The second floor deck extension is what is being referred to in the project description, I believe. And Mr. Oxner, are you referring to a detached deck, like a deck that is away from the structure, or what is that deck you're proposing?
Yes, so there's two decks. There is the second story deck, which is a part of this. That's a part of the building and that's a part of this phase. But the lower level deck is the deck that received the water feature.
Okay, can we go to the site plan so you can kind of point that out so I can understand what we're looking at? So today we're looking at the architecture and finishes of that second floor deck, which is on the thing that's on the screen is the roof plan. So that's to the left, I guess.
Yes.
So we already approved that. The change that you're proposing today is just the finish and the horizontal band finish, correct? On the top, on the canopy that's on the top of that deck?
Yeah, the deck and its canopy got extended out beyond what you had originally approved. So that's a part of what you're reviewing today. Yes.
Okay, so that deck, if we like it, doesn't get hung up in your other permit, correct? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yes,
Okay,
that second story deck and its canopy is a part of this permit.
And then the other deck that you're referring to is on the site, correct?
It's on the ground level, and it's the first floor deck basically.
Okay, so what that now I understand. So what you were saying is that may or may not come back to us for review, that second deck, depending on what the Coastal Commission, et cetera, it says, right?
Yeah. So this
Okay,
since
all right,
then
so,
it's
Okay, so that answers my question. So we're not looking at that today. We're just looking at the deck. So can we go back to the building elevations? I don't know what sheet those are on, because that's where my questions are. So let's go to the west elevation, or maybe no, it shows better. Probably shows better on the, because you don't have a section, but it shows better, I think, on the north elevation. Yeah, where the deck is on the north elevation, if we can scoot over to that. So that canopy appears to be cantilevered from the house. Am I reading that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay, and was that always cantilevered? Is that what we approved before?
Yes, it was always cantilevered, but not quite that far.
Okay, so now it's out another 4 feet, 5 feet?
5 feet.
5 feet, okay. So engineering wise, you've got that all worked out?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I've got
So the material on that canopy is this metal gray material you showed in the rendering, correct?
Yes, that's the dark analyzed fascia around that with a flat roof on top of it. Yes.
Okay, and then before we hadn't approved any kind of railing?
No, before you had approved a railing, and the railing was a metal railing like this one, but I believe it had vertical stanchions rather than horizontal.
Okay, and so the horizontals are going to be cable rails, correct?
Yeah, they're actually not cables, they're bars, but yes, they're going to look like cables, yes.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, that's what and so that's going to, and are they going to be finished the same finish as the vertical stair rail that's on the first level that you show in that sketch or in the elevations?
That's a good question. I think they're going to end up being stainless steel, and the vertical stanchions and the horizontal rail will be the dark anodized.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Then if you could go to the left of that north elevation, what I was just trying to figure out is you said the stucco is going to be proud. So all of the board and bat that we see on the house today, all the green board and bat is coming off, essentially, correct?
Yes, that's coming off, and the plywood below it's been deteriorated as well. So right, so it's coming down to the studs. Exactly.
All right. So the top part, you're going to be proud of the bottom. The second floor is going to be proud of the bottom floor, because the top floor, the way I'm reading this, that's the stucco that you're talking about. And then the bottom floor is a horizontal wood pattern?
Yes, that's the horizontal synthetic wood, and the stucco is about 1 inch or so proud of it.
Okay, and the horizontal is about what, a 4-inch simulated horizontal piece of wood? Okay.
Yep, it's
so
a
like
4-inch.
like a hardy board material or something?
Well, it's more of like it's almost like a plasticky type of a material. It's Aztec. It's kind of an interesting product. It's lightweight.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you said the windows are all gonna, and I didn't see the detail yet. So all of the windows on both the second and first floor are gonna indent a little bit. When you say that, is that what, a couple inches or?
Yeah, we've got the details on the last page here. So we've got 2x6 and 2x8 framing on this house.
Okay.
And so these Fleetwoods are set in. They don't have nail fins. So if we go to the end here, these are the supplemental details for this. So it shows all
Okay,
how the,
yes, okay. All right.
so we're actually mitering all of the wood so it turns in and it accentuates that thickness.
Okay, and then the top of the parapet, you said that was, the way I'm reading that is the stucco going to go over the top of the parapet?
It will, yes.
Okay, well, the only thing, because I have a house similar, my house has a, parapet and stucco siding. And what I've learned over the years, it gets dirty as hell up there because the dirt sits on the top of that and then it starts washing down the side of the house. So I just spent $600 to have the guy come out and spray it to get it all cleaned up. So
yeah, that's a good.
I haven't figured out a better way to detail it. We see it all over town, even in our Spanish buildings where we have those, curvy stucco sloped parapets and kind of things. And once they get dirty, they just look like hell all the time. But I haven't come up with a good detail about how.
One thing you could try is the camp the top of the stucco back to the flat roof, and then that helps a bit.
Yeah. So you might try, only because your owner is, 5 years out is going to say, well, what the hell happened? I had all this nice stucco and now it's all dirty again. And then on the standing seam roof on the, what is that? The east elevation, street elevation. I was reading your rendering and it didn't look like a standing seam. So is it really a standing seam?
Yes, it's a standing seam. Yeah.
So the standing seam is how high? About 1.5 inches or something?
Yeah, the seams are, I would say they're probably 1 inch or slightly more.
All right, and then that horizontal band that you have on the front, because our computer screens, it's just black. We can't see what it's easier to look at your rendered, your elevations. The horizontal band, the horizontal band, does that have an interior gutter? Is that how you're pulling the water off of there so it doesn't fall over the front of the garage?
Exactly. Yeah, it's got an interior gutter, and it's.
Do they go to downspouts somewhere, or they just?
They go to downspouts back into the wall behind it.
Oh, behind it. Okay, so we don't see those vertical downspouts from the street, so to speak.
Right.
Okay, and then the other thing that I didn't see, which I assumed your owner would want, but maybe it's up in a coffer, is some lighting around that garage door and around the gate and where the house number might go.
Yes, I believe we had some lighting on the original plan that at this point is holding steady. Although if we're back on consent, that's why, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know that was proposed to be changed, but with that eyebrow, maybe the lighting designer's got a different trick up his sleeve or something.
Yeah, I just, because it's at night, that's pretty dark. And certainly if somebody's trying to find a house in the evening, having a light by the address is always something one wants to think about. Let's see. So you discussed the canopy. We cleared up the fountain and the pool. And I think I've got the gutters. The chimney cap, you said is going to be metal, and it's finished to match the horizontals at the balcony and at the front, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, I think that answers all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Jonathan, you have any questions?
Is that better?
There you are.
Okay. I don't think I have any questions. I had a question about the roof, but I think it looks okay when you showed the picture again.
Thank you. Yeah, the only question I have is glaring because that one beautiful Revit drawing you have of it kind of shows it glaring. So do you have a comment about whether the standing metal seam roof will be glaring?
Yeah, I saw that too. I mean, I don't, it's a deep color. So it's this is from, I've used this product before. It's the Bridger steel. They're very popular, and it seems like, it's gonna lose its, once the sun, I know it's on the north side there, but they tend to not be, especially the dark colors. I've seen this roof around quite a bit. I could drop a sample off at the city for you to look at it, but it's on the north side there. I don't think it's really going to have an opportunity to create problems.
Okay. I don't know if it's an effect or I don't have a context of how the house is located from the street, so I don't know. I'll have to depend on my fellow board members if they've gone out there to actually see it, if that's a concern, or do you think it's, and he says it's not going to be a concern because it's of that gray color. So that's
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, sure, Fred.
Yeah. Tom, as I recall, this is directly across the street from the house that has a standing seam metal roof on the other corner. Correct?
I think you're right. Yeah.
No, there's a house that, in fact, I think the house across the street, we didn't, for whatever reason, ever look at because it's a single story. Maybe it was out of our purview. Anyway, it has a standing seam. So Tom, the only thing I was gonna ask is, you're showing this slate gray color as, I think, the standing seam color. Have you taken the time to compare that color with a house across the street to satisfy yourself that you've got either it matches, or there's enough differential between the two gray colors? Because I think the one across the street is also gray.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now, and I've got an aerial shot of that house, and yeah, it looks pretty darn similar.
Yeah, you might
right.
want to talk to your owner about whether he wants to match the guy across the street or whether you want to be slightly different.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and then Tom, last question. Given the fact we've got a lot of windows on, I guess that's the west elevation. Yeah. And those are all existing, as I recall. You're replacing them for like kind openings. But are you still the architect for the house that may go on the adjacent property?
Yes.
So I'm assuming you're taking into account, as you continue to work on that design, the privacy issues that are going to happen between the two properties, and have shared that with the owner, this owner?
Absolutely, and it's the same owner, and it's really just
so he understands.
Be a small pool house. It'll be it's a small. The reason the house is so small because it's going to act as an accessory pool house to this house.
To this house. Okay, all right. I just wanted to check, since you've got the ability to coordinate both of these projects. So.
Yeah, and that has to do with why we pulled the deck forward, because now with the compatibility of the two lots, it seems like there's an opportunity to bring the two together more.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Fred. Now let's go to questions. So I'm going to go down the list here for questions. Lisa, James, do you have any questions or excuse me, comments?
Yes, I find the design very compatible with the eclectic nature of the neighborhood, and that your proposed changes are supportable. So I really appreciate the renderings that you've shown us, made it very clear, and I think it's a great project, even though I'm not supposed to say that.
Thank you. Excuse me, Jan Farrell, do you have any comments?
I just want to agree with my colleague, Lisa, that I find this project supportable, and the small changes that Tom has proposed are supportable.
Great, thank you very much. Joseph Motisha, I saw you. You're here.
I'm here. Yes, I like the project. I think it meets our criteria, and I think it's changing. It's greatly changing all the houses along Shoreline, because they're upgrading a lot of the houses to metal roofs. And in the years to come, it will change all the houses along there, totally change the architecture. I'm in support of the project. I think it is improvement, especially the roof improvement over the what I call 1954 shake roofs that are now turning into the new 20th century. Yes, thank you, Tom.
It's 21st century, Joe.
21st century. Sorry, missed it. I lost a year. I lost 100 years.
Okay. All right, thank you. Robert Richards, do you have any comments?
I agree with the previous comments and support. I think it's a good project. I think the improvements, changes proposed are appropriate. And so I'm in support of it.
Thank you.
Bring it forward.
Fred Sweeney, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just a few. I'm in pretty much agreement with my colleagues, although I may differ on the metal components of all these houses that we're seeing. But I think more importantly is these are not minor changes for review after final. In my view, they're fairly major changes, but I think to the better. I think that the greenhouse board and bat wasn't really probably deserving for the amount of money that the client was spending on this house. So I'm satisfied that this approach is a much better approach in terms of its adaptability to the style of the house. And to the architecture being proposed, it's much more cohesive and not as awkward as the previous application. So, but to staff, this is a major change. Even though I think we're all in agreement that it's acceptable, this is not a minor change. This is a major change. When you take all of the exterior finishes off a house and you change all the windows, and you change all of the parapet conditions, you change all of the fascia conditions, that's a major change. I don't know where we get this notion that these are minor changes. We've seen this on several homes where someone has made a determination that these are minor changes. These are not minor changes. So I hope staff understands that as they move forward in time, that's a good reason why it should have come back, and I'm glad it did come back to the full board, so we had the opportunity to make comments on all of these changes. And I would hope that Mr. Oshner is continued to be retained as the architect for the adjacent house, because I think given the new criteria we'll have to follow, both these houses working in concert is going to be fairly important. So approving this, as I think we're going to be inclined to do today, is important for all of us to keep this in mind, particularly when the other house comes back to us, because it's a combination of those two houses along with the other houses along Shoreline Drive that will in fact change the neighborhood, as Mr. Motisha has pointed out. So I think, that's the part we have to look at in terms of neighborhood compatibility. So again, I generally agree with my colleagues, and there should be no reason why Mr. Oshner can't proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Joe, did you have something to say? You popped back up.
That your cantilever over that new deck, another 4 feet. That's a
instructions in the help section of your Alexa app.
Sorry, my Alexa just went on. Can you say what you just said again? I didn't even hear you. Jeez.
I was going to make a comment about Tom. You mentioned that roof over the new deck is cantilevered out another 4 feet. That's going to change quite a bit of structure in that roof to cantilever that roof out another 4 feet. That's way out there. I hope we see some drawings for that. And you just kind of, Fred mentioned it, and you kind of passed it over that say, oh yeah, we're just going to cantilever that thing out another 4 feet. That's a big cantilever out there.
Yeah, we've got quite a bit of steel here. You're
I have
right.
a question, because Joe's bringing up, you're here for final approval, so is it coming back to consent?
That depends on you. If your board gives this final, then I can submit these revisions to the building department. If I have to come back for final on consent, then I've got to wait until I get that final on consent after this to submit to the building department.
We have drawings for that cantilever roof.
I've got structural drawings for all of this right now. Yeah.
Now, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Fred.
Mr. Fred, yeah, if I may, Joe, you know, we're obligated to look at the detailing and the general design. That's part of our purview, but not necessarily the structural drawings. So I don't think that would hold the designer up from proceeding. If we give it final approval, it wouldn't have to come back consent, because I think he's provided the detail for that canopy in terms of the finish, correct? That's what that detail mark is. It shows on the west elevation. I can't read it on my drawing here, but appears to be a detail.
Yeah, is it
Correct?
possible to see that detail, or is that not
Yeah,
available?
see where it says 6 on sheet A 4.0. That should be the detail for that parapet, correct?
Sheet 3.2, 1.7. You want to go to sheet 4. Well, and technically we should review all the sheets anyway, right? I mean,
For final, yeah, we're supposed to be able to look at all the sheets. But we generally do not look at structural unless there's a concern, as Joe's pointed out.
Right.
But typically,
Exactly.
we look at all the A sheets and all the L sheets and the E sheets for lighting. And those all should be in the set in order to give it final approval.
mhm. So it looks to me there is no structural included, so I don't know if you want to just accept it or, okay, here we go. Is that, well, no, that's,
Yeah, there it is, right?
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's on 3, right? Canopy detail. Can we scoot in on that one? Yeah, see right there? Is that it, Tom?
These are just my architectural drawings. I have full structural drawings right
No,
now.
I understand it, but we're only architectural review. So the
Yes.
finish of the canopy and the slope and the material is shown on this detail, correct? That's what it'll look like
Yes,
from an
that's what it'll
architectural
look like.
detailing, correct? Structural shows how you're going to cantilever out that far. And Joe is correct, it probably goes deep into your existing roof, but you've got that solved, correct?
I do have that solved.
Yeah, so our purview is only to what it looks like in its finished form, and we have to be satisfied that that detail looks okay.
Well, hopefully you're not back with us to say, oh, it's just the end of the cantilever, just sitting against the side of the building and it's gonna have a sky hook holding it up. Okay, I'm in agreement with you, Fred. If basically we're looking at aesthetic of it and not the structure, and if the structure is gonna hold it up, what are we to say?
Yeah, so be it. And, you know, if he has to come back, he has to come back, but I assume he's got a good structural engineer, knows what he's doing. Thanks.
Looks like it's just plastered on
The
the side
steel
of
shop drawings are underway, and it's all been engineered.
Yeah, I was gonna say it aesthetically, we just are concerned with that. And if it does collapse, that's definitely gonna be the structural engineer's bailiwick.
It's the building department, yeah.
All right, thank you. So Joe, are you satisfied with your question?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So Jonathan Ziegler, do you have any comment?
Just unanimity. I'm agreeing with the rest of my colleagues. Let's go with it.
Okay, all right, thank you. I basically agree with my colleagues as well. So with that being said, like I said, he's here for final design approval. If someone would like to draft a motion, you could do that. Would you do that, please?
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, this is here for review after final approval.
Okay, so with that being said, what kind of a motion are you wanting? Well, what type of motion do we use for this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Fred.
this is Fred. I could go ahead and try to make that motion, and Ted, just let me know if I leave anything out.
Thank
So
you.
this is a motion for review after final that the board has reviewed the changes requested in the exterior finishes, including new areas of stucco, new areas of wood siding panels to replace the existing vertical and horizontal board and bat finish. The board has reviewed the new color scheme as presented, which will eliminate the existing olive green color of the exterior of the home. The board looked at the extension of the second floor roof deck on the south elevation and the attenuant cable or horizontal railing system, and that the board did review the coping details and the horizontal metal bands being introduced at the garage overhang on the north elevation and at the overhangs on the south elevation, including the cantilevered canopy over the top deck. That the board reviewed and discussed the color and details of the proposed standing seam roofs as being suggested to replace the existing slate roofs. That the board reviewed the chimney cap and other exterior finishes, and that the board is of the understanding that on the north elevation, street elevation, that the previous proposed night sky compliant light fixtures will be utilized near the garage and the entry gate, and that the board also understands there is a second permit that's not currently under its purview for a on the ground deck and pool component in the landscape area. And I think, Ted, did I miss anything? Or did we get everything we needed?
Mr. Sweeney, for review after final, special findings are not required.
Okay.
I believe you just need to say whether you'd like to continue it or approve it, but no need to mention special findings.
Okay, so this is for approval. And that's my motion.
Thank you, Fred. Appreciate it.
I'll give it a second.
Okay, thank you, Joe. May I have any comments or discussion? Thank you. Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, this is Mary, Commission Secretary. I will take the roll call vote. We have Chair Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chair James,
Yes.
Board Member Farrell,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a 10-day appeal for this? Ted?
Mr. Chair, I believe that only applies to project design approval. Matthew Ozilmaz, can you confirm, please?
This is an appealable action to the City Council, so there will be a 10-day appeal period applicable to this project.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. All those in favor? We just did that, right? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is our only item on today's agenda. So therefore, I will conclude the Single Family Design Board for June 22nd. Thank you very much.